pick the right thing here. Okay. Music is down. Hello and welcome to the Dr. Elisa Show here on KUHS Denver, the stream. Thank you for joining me. Have an amazing guest today, but before I get there, I'm still, you know how this goes. I've always got a little technology to do as we get started, so thank you for your patience. If you haven't joined me before, the doctor is a doctor in psychology, PhD, and the show this year, my tagline has been Life on the Loose, which is my personal tagline, Life on the Loose. For those of you who wonder if that means I'm encouraging you to sell everything you own and become a like gypsy, not really. I am encouraging you, though, to embrace who you truly are and to understand that the rules that are written for the world in general, right? What is success and how do you get there and how do you be a guy or a girl or a non-binary or whatever? Yeah, those rules were maybe not written for you. And so what I've done this year is bring on these amazing guests, 99% women, who are living life on the loose in a way that speaks to me, okay? If you want to find me, you can find me obviously here at KUHS Denver. You can find me on Amazon. So before I get to my guest, remember I've got my first novel, Way of the Well. Thank you everyone who's been reading it, and you'll note that I actually have a workshop based on this if you're interested in that. My leadership book, which definitely was my second book, and it was definitely about leading on the loose, which is Pirate Wisdom. And then my second novel, which is Dark Fire. And it's now available also on Amazon in Kindle and in paperback, and would love your feedback on this book. It is partly, it's a romance, it's a spiritual adventure, and it's also about healing our lineage wounds. Oh, and it's got a sexy vampire in it. So I think you'll love it. Okay, putting those down, I am now going to just talk to you, and I got to do a little adjusting here. There we go. That's a better picture for those of you watching on Facebook. Okay, so as you know, right, women who've inspired me. So I found this book. Somehow I'm not sure how I found it. It may have jumped off a shelf into my hands. It happens in the library to me a lot. It's called Wonder Seeker. And there's something about this book. You know, there are some books you pick up and you read them all the way through. There are some books that you put on a table and you randomly open them. This is both. You read it all the way through. Once you pick it up, randomly opening it because you can't put it down. It is both a visual sort of buffet and delight, full of kind of a workbook kind of at times with exercises and also these sort of brilliant insights with stories. And so I found it very unique. And since I found it unique and inspiring, of course, I had to reach out to Andrea, and it's Scher, right? I said that right? Scher.
Yeah.
My best friend's last name is Scher, but she spells it differently. And to have her on. So Andrea, thank you so much for coming on. I'm so excited to have you.
Oh, thank you. It makes me so happy to hear how you responded to the book, and that has been my wish, like for like the people that it speaks to, is just like, oh, I see myself here.
Yes.
This is yeah.
Yeah.
There's a big resonance with certain kindred.
Right.
Yes.
So where I want to start is you know, your website. Here's the other thing that speaks to me. You talk about being multi-passionate, which I adore. Creative collaborator, a willing adventurer, all those things that I'd like to think of myself as also. But there's something about the way you sort of believe in the magic of wonder and this life you've created as an artist and a photographer and a blogger and a podcaster and an author. And I wonder if you could can you just start and give us some of your story of how you got there, like what the journey is for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, so I'm definitely one of those multi-passionate creatures, and sometimes it's hard to reconcile that in the world that we live in, right? Because people want you to be one thing. It's like, oh, master of none, that whole thing. So there's this narrative that we're not supposed to do more than one thing. But I think especially as creative creatures, which we all are, frankly, we are excited about different things. We're curious about different things. We're good at different things. And for certain people like myself, it was just too limiting to kind of focus in and be like, oh, I'm in this. So I really gave myself permission at some point to be all of who I am. And at times that feels hard, and at other times it just feels like I have no other choice. Like, this is all of me. And so I started off, as in college, I studied economics, of all things. It's totally bizarre. But after I graduated, I was like, okay, that was cool, but I need to start my creative path. Even though I haven't painted since I was probably 10 years old, I need to start my life as an artist. And I just really knew that in a deep way. And coincidentally, I moved to New Orleans right when I made that revelation. And so, so I'm in this incredibly creative city with all these artists. I was living in the French Quarter, and nobody knew me. So when someone would ask me, who are you, what do you do? I was like, I'm a painter. Okay, I'd been painting for like a few weeks at the time that I started saying that. And the more I said it and the more I painted, the more it was true, and I kind of spoke reality into existence. Like, I spoke my future into being just by affirming it over and over and having it reflected back to me. And within a few months, I had met, like, in the line at the Kinko's, because at that time we had to color copy our artwork, right? And she was like, oh my gosh, I want to write an article about you for the New Orleans Times-Picayune, since it's like your first day as an artist on the square. I was selling my art in Jackson Square. So within a few months, it was like the Sunday Times rolled out, and there was my face and the word artist next to my name, and I was like, oh my God. You can just make it up? You can just do that? How cool, right? So that was both a lesson in manifesting and a lesson in, like, really stepping into the life I wanted to imagine for myself and create for myself. So that was the beginning.
Wow.
And then really soon after, I found the author Sark, the author and artist Sark. And she became a real sort of trailblazer for me. Like, I saw her books and I was like, ooh, if books look like this, look at me, right?
Yes.
And as you were sharing about my book, it's colorful, it's unusual, it's a little workbooky, it's a little bit of wisdom and storytelling, it's a little bit of, photography and beauty. And that's what I saw in hers, and I was like, ooh, yeah, I want to do that.
Yeah. That is such, we could spend an hour talking about just what you just talked about. And it's so interesting because while you were talking, I could smell the French Quarter, right? The coffee, the beignets, the perfume shops, right? And then, and see you right there. And you did, you spoke and acted your future into being.
Yeah.
Wow. Which is such a powerful way of manifesting, as opposed to sitting and just thinking about it, visioning it, right? You acted and created it. Wow.
Yeah, and I had to create a definition of an artist that included me. So instead of, an artist, sits down and can paint whatever they see, or an artist, has a bunch of shows under their belt, or an artist is in a museum. It's like, I had to define an artist as me. So it's like, okay, well, I'll call myself a painter because I've been painting every day. So I'll be a painter. Right. And that was where I started. I know that sort of the creativity and artists, like, that can be loaded for people as far as identity goes. Absolutely.
But I love that, and in part because I sort of created myself as a radio host. I created myself as a writer. I mean, I did very similar things. Yeah, I'm a published author. Yeah, and then, right, you sort of create that life. That is amazing. So artist, which you still are, photographer, which is also just another form of an artist, right?
Right.
And then you moved into writing, and so the blog came next with the podcast.
So what happened was I had a jewelry business at one for about 15 years.
I forgot about that. Yes, the jewelry
Yeah,
business.
I know. It gets confusing. For about 15 years, I had a jewelry business, and I noticed that as I was trying to market the jewelry, I was putting a lot of storytelling in, because I'm like, who wants to hear every week, the same, like, oh, this is on sale, or this is the necklace that I, have made 100 times, but here it is again. And so I started telling stories about, like, where I was finding my beads, or how I was hoarding certain colors because I couldn't find this particular pink, so I was hoarding pink beads, and now I'm making a whole pink necklace because I'm choosing to live in abundance. Like, I just started creating little sort of vignettes out of these newsletters. And a friend of mine who was much more savvy than I was said, "You're a natural blogger. I am going to set you up with a blog." This was 2002, so this is a long time ago. And we didn't know at that time that this is a little marketing machine, or this is like anything other than a creative indulgence, right? And so it was a place for me. I had been doing a lot of visual journaling and photography. It was a place for me to showcase my photos and my writing and just things that, like, I felt like had nothing to do with my jewelry business but were fun. And then, of course, within a year, I was like, wow, my jewelry business is doing really well, and I don't really know why. And then I installed what they had at that time as a site counter, and you could install this thing, and then you could see how many people were coming to your website. And then I realized, oh, there are thousands of people coming to my website every day to read the blog, and that's when my jewelry is doing so well.
Oh my gosh.
And so, so a lot of this stuff for me was a really organic, like, I was kind of bursting with creativity in all these different ways, and it was a real labor of love. And I think that, like, in a perfect world, that's where our marketing comes from, that's where our success and our joy comes from.
Yes.
Doesn't always work out so clean like that, but there was a period of time where that was really how it was for me.
Yeah, I think that's a fascinating story, in part because now everyone is trying to teach you how to market your businesses online, and they take you through the steps. And what you're saying is this was a creative, joyful endeavor. And so I just kept following the path and the things that opened and the things I loved. Oh, that turned into marketing.
Yeah.
Might not work for somebody else exactly like this, right?
Yeah.
But so it's a different take on that marketing.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's the following of that. I find it interesting because economics is actually a very storytelling kind of degree. So I was a dean of arts and sciences, so I know very little about tons of stuff. And what I know about economics is that it's kind of the storytelling about money and society, and it's connected to geography and to geology and to, like tons and tons of stuff. So it's interesting you had that kind of a financial background that was about storytelling, right?
That's
about
interesting.
people.
I never put that together. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like a perfect degree. You just didn't know it, right?
I'm trusting that thing of, like, we just have to trust, like, the choices that we've made, and, like, know that everything is purposeful and nothing is wasted. Yes. Yeah.
Which I also love, because it is, instead of saying, well, I wasted those 6 years doing, whatever. No. It all adds up. It all adds up. So as you know, I love your book, right? I mean, I adore your book. I also, so you're also, talk about you were early in podcasting, weren't you? Because what I read about you was somebody told you to get on the radio, which now you're on the radio, and you didn't know how to get on the radio, and then suddenly podcasting showed up, and I've listened to some of your podcasts; they're marvelous. So how was that like that was the next thing after blogging, right?
Yeah, after many years of blogging, I think it's been about 18 years now. I started to get tired of talking about myself and my life, and I entered a season 2 where my life felt very private. I was going through a separation, divorce, and just didn't feel like just my story to tell anymore. And I also started noticing that I was fatiguing a bit with writing, but I noticed that when I was teaching courses, instead of writing content, I was like, well, I think she's going to record my voice and start speaking the content and having conversations. And so I think there was a sort of natural progression from writing to speaking. And and then I started getting feedback from people like, oh, I love your voice, or you would be great on the radio, or you should have a radio show. And I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. But like you said, like, then podcasting came, it's like, I get what they're saying. And so it was a relief to me to have really juicy conversations with people
Right.
that weren't about me.
So, can I ask you one more question? I really do want to talk about the book, but you've also on your website got a class called Mondo Biondo.
Yeah.
And so are you using sort of your process of speaking and acting your life into being in that class? And I love the name. Is that what that workshop or retreat or whatever you call it is about?
Yeah, so that was the first e-course that I that I ever offered, and it was about 14 years ago or so that it started. And it's about law of attraction. It's about speaking possibility into existence. It's about being willing to be vulnerable and take risks and say yes and practice courage. So it's like almost like all these different muscles that when we strengthen those muscles, we create better conditions for our dreams to be made real.
Nice.
Right? So in addition to, I could call that story, in a sort of flip light, like, oh, wasn't that magical? But like, honestly, like, I was brave. I was speaking into this new dream.
Yes.
I was being so courageous. I was decided to sell my work in this, square or whatever. So like, we do things that really aren't luck.
I agree.
And they're really, like, if you really were just to practice one thing, practicing courage, which is also practicing vulnerability, is everything.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I saw courage throughout your book. So it's interesting you bring that up. So let me just take a break very quickly and let everyone who is listening know this is KUHS Denver, The Stream, the Dr. Elisa Show, with the amazing author of The Wonder Seeker. Go get the book, really. I mean, I probably say this about many books. Really, go get the book. Just go get it. It's amazing. Even if just once a week you like crack it open for inspiration. And I know you've been asked this before on other interviews. Is there a favorite part of this book you have? Because it's organized in an interesting way. So is there a favorite section that you have?
That's a good question. So there's all these different kinds of wonder. So you say that there's different sections. So there's like, there's the wonder of nature. So that's kind of the first place we go when we think of wonder. It's like, okay, like what was your first experience of wonder? This is actually, I think this is my favorite part. Just asking someone the question, what was one of your first experiences of wonder? People, like, their faces change.
Right.
They look delighted. They're like, oh, my dad took me camping and I saw the night sky for the first time.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, or like that time there were, hundreds of little tiny sand dollars strewn across the beach. Or that feeling like when my dad or my mom took their hand away from the small of my back when I was riding a bicycle.
Yeah,
right?
remember that moment? Yeah, and you're like, whoa, here I am.
I'm flying,
I'm
right?
flying.
And so to just presence that, to have a conversation, I love having conversations with groups of people about these memories because we're like, oh yeah, wonder. Like, and there's a sense of like, our hearts open, we're full of well-being, we remember why we love being here on this earth, we remember why we want to protect this place, why we want to, why we have reverence, all of those things. And as somebody who has experienced a lot of anxiety and depression, I think we all have, frankly, by now, right?
By now, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. It's not like a unique thing, but as somebody who's sort of been through much of that, these kinds of practices were really built to keep me buoyant and not, go below the whatever the line is, right?
Yeah.
And so practicing courage and practicing seeing the world through eyes of wonder and gratitude has really changed my life. And there's all this sort of neuroscience to back it up now, right?
Yeah.
How we have a negativity bias and we tend to scan for what's wrong in our environment naturally.
Right.
So we have to practice these things in order to train our brains to scan for what's good and what's beautiful and get away from the sort of vigilance that we're accustomed to.
Wow. It's so funny because right before I asked you that question, I randomly opened the book and it opened to ask someone about their first memories of wonder. Randomly where the book opened to. I love that. I have to say that I also love parts of the end part, the everyday magic, and again, it's because you have a mixture of magic, synchronicity, but also intention and activity, right? That I'm not just manifesting with a vision board, I'm acting and I'm setting an intention. And I love this thing of asking the dictionary for advice. I think I mentioned to you that I'm also an astrologer, I have a crystal ball, I have all these, right? I have a PhD in psych, and I also have woo-woo side.
Yeah.
And the book has both of those also in a lovely blend.
Yeah.
Right? And so I'm wondering about how, and you sort of started down that rabbit hole, how has writing this book affected you? How has it influenced your life?
Yeah, well, I think one thing I can say is that I was writing this book during 2020. So I got the book deal at the beginning of the pandemic, like probably 4 weeks into the quarantine time. And it was almost like an experiment. It's like, okay, what does it take to create better conditions for wonder to arise in our lives? And how does that connect to joy? And how does that keep us buoyant and out of the red zone of anxiety and depression and all of that? And so while many people were kind of slipping into that place, understandably, I was fiercely protecting the energy of this book by focusing on wonder and joy, not to step over what was hard or to deny it and to be in this like la la land, but to include it, right? It's like, okay, we have this whole range of things that we're experiencing right now. It's not just fear and anxiety and scarcity and all of the stuff. There's also beauty. You're walking outside and now it's so quiet outside that you can literally hear the hummingbird's wings when you walk down the street, right? And so I was just tuning in, like my aperture was wider and I was tuning into the whole range. And also, like I said, protecting the energy of the book and also protecting my own energy. It's like, how do I relate to media right now? How do I relate to the sensationalism right now? How much information is enough for me right now? And I know we're all, you know, having to have a relationship with media right now. That's a thing. But yeah, so I think the focus on, it's like where we put our attention is how our life shows up, right? Both in that sort of woo of attraction way and also in a very actual, you know, everyday kind of way. And so I was putting my attention on very specifically on wonder, and it was like, all right, let's see what happens. It was a pretty joyful year, I have to say.
That's an amazing story, and just relate that my last novel I wrote as soon as we locked down. And what I would do is I'd go out every day, walking outside in Colorado. This is a pretty easy thing to do, or riding my bike. And I would invent these characters and let them talk to me and tell me the story. And then I'd go home and write the rest of the story. And then when I ran out of story, I'd go back outside in nature and talk to my characters again. And so a very similar kind of process. I love it. I wanted, though, you mentioned relationships, right? And that we've all got sort of a dysfunctional relationship with media right now. Relationships really are featured quite profoundly in this book, right? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, so interesting. I hadn't actually noted that, and until you mentioned it. And but I do know that like there's one story about my friend Eric and how there's a story about how we dated for a very short time, and then he broke up with me, and I was like, what gives, you know? He's like, do you want to know why? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, you didn't ask me any questions, and you just talked all the time about yourself. And I was like, oh God, like how embarrassing. And also like, gosh, you know, my experience of you was that like I kept sharing all this stuff and you never reciprocated. I didn't know I was supposed to ask you questions. I thought you were supposed to just share back.
Right.
So I was boring. And so it was this really interesting thing. We're still really close friends to this day, but he really taught me something about being curious and how people have different ways of styles of relating and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think I'm I'm like a big fan of deep connection. I don't like the small talk. I can't do that kind of thing. And so I'm kind of nerdy about finding ways to go deep with people and having like prompt cards, and I love being in one conversation at a party as opposed to like everyone sort of splintering off.
Right.
So yeah, I think my nerdiness about deep connection and like deep juicy conversation is kind of what you're saying.
Well, it shows up in the book. I mean, when you're talking about the yarn, at one point there, and who dyes the yarn, and your sons, and your photography with, oh, I'm going to take my girlfriends out and have pictures with my girlfriends. And I think over and over again, because you also you take friends on wonder, have a wonder day. And so there's so much about relationships in there. Not that you don't do things alone, but I just found it interesting that wonder in it's almost like your gift to the world. Here's how we can all wonder, but I'm also going to show you how you can do this with somebody else.
I love that. Thank you. Yeah, you know, one thing I believe is that our joy is amplified when we're sharing it with other people. Like, we can have joy by ourselves, but like the first thing you want to do when you see a rainbow in the sky is grab whatever person is nearby and say, "Oh my God, look!"
I know,
right?
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Last night we were at a concert outside, and on a hill there were 4 people on horseback with the sun setting behind them. And I was thinking about you because, you know, today, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the color, a moment of wonder while I'm dancing outside at this concert. It was so cool. And I know we're getting to the end of our time. Do you have a few more minutes that you can? Yeah. Oh, good, because this is so
Well, and I want to just note there's something called, that I did not put in the book, but it's called collective effervescence. Do you know about collective effervescence?
I think you talked about it briefly on one of your podcasts. I would love for you to explicate. Go for it.
Yeah, no, it's just the experience of kind of joy or wonder or awe with other people. So the most recent experience that I've had was I was at Zumba, and Zumba's really hard, it turns out, and it's like really aerobic, and so I haven't found a kind of flow state with it yet. But there was this one moment recently where I felt like we were all like in our joy together, and we were sort of riding a wave of something all together, and I just felt it, and I was like, oh my God, I don't think I felt this joyful in so long. And at the end of class, I said something to the teacher like, oh my God, do you know what collective effervescence is? And she did. Oh yeah, that was happening today. I felt it too. And she said, it doesn't happen every class, but it was happening today. And I was like, okay, so it was it's just so beautiful. I love the idea that like we're sort of communing with other human animals, you know, in these really beautiful, intuitive ways, and another kind of connection, right?
Is that what you try for on your retreats? Because you also lead retreats. You're definitely multi-passionate. We a friend of mine who's a writing teacher named Lori Wagner, she does a process called wild writing. So it's again deep connecting, kind of vulnerable work. We take groups of women to Mexico, and we do writing every day, and then we do these sort of like wonder walks with our cameras and photography, and I love connecting with women in particular. There's something magical about being in a circle of women. Yeah, I agree. And I have to tell you, I saw that on your website. I thought, I wonder if I should do that, and it's sold out. So I'll have to wonder into the future.
Yeah, tell me more. I'll let you know.
You let me know.
Yeah.
Keep me posted.
Yeah.
I also want to talk in just a few more minutes, I promise. But color is, I mean, like every single page in this book, you have the colored chips, and then you have the yarn, and you have the thread, and you have the making the magic sticks by wrapping them with yarn and thread, and color seems to be such a vital part of wonder. Can you sort of dive into that a little bit for me?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, right? It's because I don't know the sort of scientific answer, but I do know that, you know, there are people talk about color therapy or how color sort of like lifts our mood or whatever. And I just know that I've always been really sensitive to color. And, you know, when I was a kid, someone would say like, you know, oh, what's your favorite color? And I'd always say, cherry red and apple green next to each other. Like, I had a really sophisticated answer for it. And, because I was already a painter when I was a kid, and I knew that, like, colors don't really exist on their own. They exist in relationship to other colors, and you kind of need even the colors that you don't like. You kind of need them in the mix. And so there's like a whole metaphor there. We could totally geek out on that.
We could totally geek out on that one. I love that one.
Yeah, but yeah, I think I'm just a color lover, and the thing that's kind of holds together all of my visual art is definitely color. I just like playing with it, and it's again, one of those things that is like therapy for me and my little anxious system, and it's a way that I can get into a flow state and you know, regulate.
So the book is not just, I mean, on some level, it's for everybody, obviously, but it's also a healing, like a healing book, as opposed to a book full of, okay, so if you're depressed, make sure you go outside and you eat correct. This is like, just dive into here and see if this page helps, right? Which I was experiencing. It was sort of, oh my gosh, this page is amazing, right? And I've been doing some of the exercises as I'm trying to like reinvent myself yet again. Yeah. What I'm curious about your book, because you said you were guarding it and protecting it, how much of what it turned into was intentional, and how much of it was just who you are, you know, creating a retreat for me in this book? Oh,
I love that. It's probably just who I am. I move very intuitively in my life and in my work. And so I'm always asking myself, okay, like, what do I feel curious about? What delights me? Like, and that's where I try to, that's where the juice is for me. That's where the gold is. It's like, what am I curious about? What delights me? And then I move in that direction. And I also just want to add too, before we close, that there are these exercises. It's almost like my self-healing work that I kind of want to just sprinkle in. Like, there's I think the activity is called Meet Whatever Shows Up with Kindness.
Yes.
And it's really this like simple practice that I use every single day, which is, you know, I'm not a great meditator, but I can put my hand on my heart and close my eyes for, you know, a minute each day and just ask myself, like, how's it going in there? You know, what's going on, and what do you need today? And you know, and sometimes I'll feel a little sort of buzz of fear in the background. I'm like, oh, okay, like, what are you afraid of, and what do you need? You know, so it's just this way that I am befriending myself, and it's kind of, it's like, I'm not into like the super heavy-handed sort of meditation things. Like, it makes it feel like, you know, to meditate is a really lofty thing. So I'd like to offer this as like, this is your 60 seconds of self-love, self-reflection, you know, all of it.
And I have to just add that I'll do something like that, and then add, you know, you're doing okay. Really.
Yeah.
You know, you're doing okay. Lighten up. You're doing okay. So I just want to give you an opportunity to is there something that you've always wanted to be asked when you're talking to somebody that you could talk about your book? Is there like just something either what still inspires you, or something you just wish you could sort of add as a piece?
I don't know if there's something I wish you would have asked me, but just the thing that popped in when you said that was where I'm finding wonder these days, and I'm really finding it at the dog park every night.
Really?
And I don't have a dog, but I love dogs, and now I have this whole community of dog friends and, you know, my human friends, my neighbors. So I have this really sweet community of neighbors and dogs, and we hang out at the magic hour every evening at the dog park up the street, and it's like, it's a place of wonder for me. It's a place of community. It's a place of, it's like an anchor in the day. And so I like to share that because it's not like these big, you know, fancy things that we do. Like, you have to go to Machu Picchu to experience wonder.
Right.
It's like, actually, it might be right down the block, right?
Right. Yeah, you don't have to travel that far. Right, to find that magic. I have a 10-month-old Newfoundland puppy, and so there's those moments of there's those moments of incredible stress while you're training a large animal, but there's just
Right.
those moments of she will see geese take off and like sit down. I'm like, wow, you can just tell that she's like, how do they do that? What are those things?
Oh, beautiful.
So where do people find you? Give them all the ways to find you.
Yes, the best place to find me is andreascher.com, so AndreaScher.com, and that's where you'll find all of my courses and my circles and my retreats and all those things.
And so you
and of course,
have,
the book.
you've got the book, you've got retreats, you've got e-courses, there's the podcast, the blog, both of which are still going. You're still writing and that.
Yeah.
And then I also imagine you're a speaker, that if somebody wants to invite you on the stage and hand you a mic, you're also...
I don't do it very often, but yeah.
Absolutely, I can tell. So I just thank you
Thank
for being on. This has been amazing. Thank you for your time. It's been incredible. And, I'll connect back with you after the show.
Great.
All right? But,
Right.
and I'm going to keep talking about you in this next part of the show, too. So you
Thank
have
you so much.
a great rest of your day.
All right, thank you.
Bye. Okay, I'm back. All right, so if you're just joining me, this is the Dr. Elisa Show on KUHS Denver, the stream. Take a deep breath. If you missed the first half of the show, no worries. You can find it, well, not yet, but soon. Actually, if you go to Facebook, the Dr. Elisa Show, you can jump in now and you could add comments and chat with me and what did you get from that, and comments about wonder and joy and all of that. You can go to my YouTube channel, which is obviously Elisa Robin on YouTube, and I'll be posting this, I don't know, by end of day at some point or maybe tomorrow, and you can catch it and you can listen to that conversation again. You can also find me, just so you know, at elisarobin.com. I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm sometimes on Twitter, have my own website, I'm on Facebook, and you can find me. You can also find me on Amazon. My books are on Amazon. And if you're interested in somebody who can lead a great conversation at an event you're planning, I'm very good at that. And I've got my own speaking business and my own coaching business. So all of those things are true about me, and you can find me. So let's just take a deep breath and go to Facebook. Please go to Facebook and just put a thumbs up, put a yes, put something in there. Write the word joy, anything, or tell me what creates wonder. And while I'm doing it, I just want to take a look at over here. We've got visitors from Oklahoma, from Kansas, from the Netherlands, from where else? From Canada, from, oh my gosh, from everywhere, from Ho Chi Minh City, from Amsterdam. You're from everywhere. This is Sao Paulo, from where else? From England, from everywhere. Thank you for joining me. This is incredible to watch how many of you are sort of jumping in, listening to the show. Hello, Santa Clara. Hello, United Kingdom. Hello, New Jersey. Hello. I'm in Denver. But look how connected we are. Isn't it absolutely incredible? My hope actually, as the world is opening up and as we're sort of getting braver and safer, is that I can travel and meet some of you in person. Wouldn't it be fun to do a live radio show somewhere else, right? Wouldn't that just be cool to take, not the whole studio obviously, but to take the road on the show on the road, excuse me. Eugene, Oregon. I'm going to be close to that soon. Broomfield. Hello. Tampa, Florida. Frankfurt. Edmond, Albert. Again, more Eugene, more Toronto. This is incredible. Okay. So, why did I have her on? And I'd love to know your thoughts. And again, Andrea Scher, the book is Wonder Seeker. I'd love to have your thoughts, so please just go to the Dr. Elisa Show on Facebook and let me know what you thought about that. And I've got it live on my laptop. I'll be able to see your comments. You know what's hard when you're doing live on Facebook, you can see yourself. And have you found that difficult? Now that everybody's like on Zoom and on Facebook and we're looking at ourselves, I'm wondering if there's more facelifts going on, and if more people are buying makeup, and if more people are getting their face adjusted somehow. Because we're staring at ourselves, and we're staring at ourselves on a flat screen, which makes us look less attractive. I just have to say that. And I think what's interesting about that is one of the things that's happened in the world is we're spending so much time on these computers, which have been really a godsend, and yet we're staring at ourselves. And this guest, so Andrea Scher, was talking about wonder, and that her book starts with being out in the world, in nature. You may live somewhere where it's very hard to get to nature. I have to say what saved me in 2020 is living in Colorado and the part of Denver that I live in. I could be outside every day. I could be on a creek, I could be next to a lake, I could put my kayak in a lake, I could ride bikes. We always had the outdoors open to us, and I was able to find places to be in nature every day. And I think that in some ways that helped transform me. Yes, it was a lonely time, yes, it was hard, yes, it was scary, but I spent so much time alone, but outside, and not necessarily alone, necessarily feeling alone, feeling connected. From that time, not only did I write my novel, but I also came up with some of my courses that I'm teaching, my e-courses, and my new program that I'm doing, which is about life on the loose. And actually, some of my speaking gigs, the things that I've planned for speaking. So I want to sort of ask you that question. How does wonder and joy in this world where everything seems disastrous, right? Every conversation seems disastrous. What would happen if what you were embracing was joy? And Andrea talked about it. She said something about the social media and the relationship we have with social media, and it is so dark. And so I just want to challenge you with this, and please jump into Facebook and let me know your thoughts. She talked about, which I have experienced, it's something that I teach, speaking and acting your future. Now, we can't predict the future. I know, I'm an astrologer and I have a crystal ball and I do all sorts of weird things, but I do it as sort of a help for where are you now, not as a predictor. Because I know things, so much has happened that we never could have necessarily predicted. And we don't have control. But in some way, we can influence. How? By what we think, what we say, and what we do. How we act. And what's fascinating, and this is a psychological principle, at some point I knew it as the yellow Volkswagen principle, that whatever you think about all the time, that's what you see, because that's what you're aware of. And so the joke used to be that now that I've said yellow Volkswagen, at some point today you'll be out driving or whatever and you're going to see a yellow Volkswagen because it's in your head. And so we scan for it. It's how human brains are designed. It's a psychology of sort of, how we're, and it's a survival instinct. Back in the day, scanning for saber-toothed tigers might have been a good thing. Scanning for poison ivy when you're hiking is always a good thing. So we start to see those things. Well, what if we're scanning for wonder and joy? We see more of that. And when we scan for wonder and for joy and for connection, everything she just talked about in her book, relationship, scan from the eyes of our creativity, from the source of our creativity, the world looks different. And as the world looks different, we respond to it differently. You're not jumping into Facebook, but you're definitely jumping up here, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and Jacob's Well, England, and places I can't quite pronounce, which I'm sorry, I apologize. Trenton, Oklahoma, I'm not sure where that is. So you're still jumping in, so something about this is catching your attention. I would love it if you would jump into Facebook and just, Facebook Live, just make a comment for me. What would happen if all of us, just for a little bit of time, scanned for wonder and for joy and for laughter? Would we leave behind the social media influence of anger and hate and disaster. Because that's what we hear, right? All the time. It's going to be a disaster. The world is falling apart. America is falling apart. Whichever side you're on, you see America falling apart. And we pull and we tug and we shred, as opposed to build relationship and build bridges and connect and feel heart-warmed and safe and secure and caring about each other in whatever way you do that. When we see the world in a different way and we act on the way we see that world, then there is a truth to we start to build the world in that way. So I just want you to think about that a minute. And yeah, you're not chatting, so you know what? I'm going to think you're hypnotized. And you're jumping in. There's Florida, more England, Massachusetts, Chile, Texas, everywhere. And if you just jumped in, you know you're on KUHS Denver the Stream. You know that's what you jumped into. This is the Dr. Elisa show. Elisa Robin, right? And if my words are ringing true, then I'd love to hear from you. Again, go to my website, elisarobin.com. You can message me there. You can read my blogs. You can see the links to the YouTube videos. You can go to YouTube and see my videos. There's so many ways you can contact with me. I write on Medium. You can find me there. If you sign up for my website and let me know, I got a giveaway for you. Just a little bit of incentive here, because I'd love to have more people visiting my website and reading my blogs. No charge. There's no charge for this. I'm not making money off of it. I just would love the engagement. I'd love to know what you're thinking. I'd love to know if my writing is reaching you. So go to my website. Sign up. Send me a note. Hey, I signed up. I'll send you a Kindle link to my newest novel, Dark Fire. Could be fun. So life on the loose. Part of life on the loose for me then is rejecting what I'm told the only way, that there's one true right way, and it's the way it's going to go and it's going to happen. When I was young, I remember, and I grew up in a time where, you know, everybody was trying to mold me into the appropriate young woman. I think they even wanted to send me to like classes to learn how to walk straight and, I don't know, hold a teacup. I'm not really sure. And everything I did, the question was, can't you find something more feminine? Can't you dress more feminine? Can't you, like, anything, right? Can't you fit in with our old values? And I remember at one point, and my dad would be always come home and he'd say, 2 women got raped today, and with no details, just sort of a little, you know, news at 11 kind of thing. And I said to him, I don't want to live in your world of fear. And he said, you have no choice. I said, well, actually, I do. I think I got sent to my room for that one. I'm not sure. But we get to choose what world we live in. Now, trust me. You know, I also had grandparents who were Holocaust survivors. So we don't get, if you're living in poverty, if you're in a situation, we don't get a choice in many ways, right, about what the world around us is doing. But we do get a choice in how we respond to it, and hopefully what we can do about it, and how we can reach for help, and how we can help others change, help others, which is sort of a universal good thing to do, isn't it? Help others. And so I want to be clear that sometimes being able to say you always have a choice sounds like it's coming from a person of privilege. And in some ways it is. And yet Viktor Frankl, and if you haven't read that book, you really need to, Man's Search for Meaning, he discovered this in the midst of the most horrific concentration camps ever imagined, in the middle of the Holocaust. And he believed that being able to focus on survival and on other things and to dream about a future and to have a profound why helped him survive. Lots of people had whys and didn't survive. I'm not saying this was like a magic bullet. But he did talk about very clearly to us that we have a choice of how we respond to what's going on around us. And what I would love is an experiment. I'm going to come back and check on you in 2 weeks, or please email me. If you go to my website, my email is sitting right there. Email it and tell me, or respond on LinkedIn, or respond on Facebook, or wherever you want. respond on YouTube. How has spending, I don't know, 10 minutes a day, can you manage that? On wonder, on focusing on wonder, focusing on joy, focusing on being freed from all those rules that were never about you, all those limits that never applied to you. They were somebody else's decision about who you should be. I'm not telling you not to be an activist. I'm not telling you not to, fight for what you believe in. I'm asking, what would happen if you spent just those 10 minutes a day focused on something else? What would change in your life? And that's what I'd love to hear. Because I have to admit that even when I'm walking my dog, if I get into a weird mindset, she misbehaves. If I stay in that mindset of, wow, look where we are, isn't this cool? She's a great dog. I mean, she's a great dog all the time. But she misbehaves when my mind goes down some sort of ugly rabbit hole. So think about that for a second. As you join from Kenya and from New Jersey and Mato Grosso and from Washington and from Greece. Oh my gosh, hello from Greece. I've never been to Greece. I'd like to go there. Soulboard and oh my gosh. Do you get how connected we are? And in this moment, wonder and joy is part of our conversation. You could take that and walk into the rest of your day with it. What an amazing thought to just do that. How does that connect to life on the loose? For me, it is choosing to think about life the way you wish to think about life. It is choosing the life that you came here to live. What would happen if each of us became that true person we were supposed to be, followed our soul's craving, understood that we came here not to yell and scream and rant and not to do that, but to live fully and to live alive and to be in the world in a way that expanded our circle and helped others do the same thing. In whatever way you do that, right? In a religious tradition or not, in a cultural tradition or not. And to understand we're not bound by the rules that other people put on us when they're trying to keep us behaving. And that's about their fears. It could come from love, quite honestly. But it's about their fear. It's not about us. And so for those of you, and I love to say this, I'll tell you if you're one of these people, okay? If you've ever tried to make brownies from a mix and you followed the directions exactly and it fell flat, but when you riffed, all of a sudden it worked. If you hear the stories about butterflies coming out of cocoons and you think, well, everyone's a butterfly, I'd rather be a dragon, or a tower of fire, or a storm in the desert, or a cloud that leads people through the darkness, anything. If you'd rather be a force of nature, then yeah, you're living on the loose. You're craving living on the loose. If you're more pirate than princess, if you don't want to be part of the dragon metaphor where, the dragon's got to get killed or collect the gold or do whatever, if you understand that flying and walking in your power without fear or apology is what you were destined to do, then life on the loose that's what I'm talking about. And that this is the work that I do with people, but this is also the message I have for people. And if it resonates with you, well, go to my website. You don't have to buy anything, just go to my website. And let's talk, and let's chat, and let's build that life on the loose community. Okay, I'm coming to the end of my time, and so all of you, Michigan, Washington, Ontario, Alabama, Georgia, oh my gosh, this is like Warsaw, Rio de Janeiro, Antwerp, India, oh my gosh, stay tuned, because after me is the amazing Henry Archuleta with the jazz, the smooth jazz hour, and I want you to stay tuned for that. I also want to let you know that August, I'm going to shift it up again a little bit, and what I'm going to do in August is a bunch of astrology, right? A is for August, A is for astrology. So tune in 2 weeks, and maybe if you have an astrological chart, bring it, and we're going to talk astrology. Until then, stay well, stay happy, right? Stay curious, and keep living life on the loose.